They told you that selfishness is wrong. They told you that good people give, sacrifice, bend, and break for others. But they lied. They lied because the world doesn't reward kindness, it exploits it. The world doesn't admire selflessness, it uses it. And if you are not selfish, if you are not ruthlessly committed to your own survival, growth, and power, then you are nothing but a pawn in someone else's game. Machiavelli didn't write for the weak. He didn't speak to the broken-hearted who seek justice in a world that doesn't care. He spoke to the powerful, the ones who understood the brutal nature of life and chose to rise above it. Because in reality, selfishness is not a sin, it is strategy. It is survival. And more than that, it is freedom. If you live your life trying to please others, they will keep moving the finish line. If you give everything, they will keep taking until there's nothing left. And the saddest truth? They won't even remember you when you're gone. The selfless are forgotten, and the selfish are remembered. Why? Because the selfish build legacies. The selfish carve their names into history. The selfish are the ones who understand this world for what it is, not what we were told it should be. Let's be clear. I'm not talking about cruelty for the sake of it. I'm talking about choosing yourself, prioritizing your energy, protecting your mind, and guarding your time like a throne. Because if you don't rule your life, someone else will. Machiavelli taught that appearances matter more than reality. You must appear kind, generous, and loyal. But deep down, you must be calculating, strategic, self-serving, not because it's cruel, but because it's smart. The lion doesn't explain itself to the sheep. It just eats. The powerful don't justify their ambition to the powerless. They simply win. You were taught to feel guilty for wanting more, guilty for choosing yourself, guilty for saying no. But who benefits from your guilt? Who gains when you shrink yourself, when you suppress your desires, when you deny your potential to make others comfortable? They do. Not you. In politics, in power, in relationships, selfishness is your defense. It is your sword and your shield. When you're selfish, you protect your vision. You stop bleeding for people who wouldn't even bandage you. You stop chasing those who would never turn around. You stop giving your best to those who offer you nothing. The truth Machiavelli revealed is that people are not loyal out of love, they are loyal out of need. As long as you are useful, they will stay. The moment you lose your value, they will vanish. So, you must always serve yourself first, before you serve anyone else. That is how you maintain power, relevance, and respect. People admire selflessness from a distance, but they follow strength. They follow power. They follow the one who doesn't bend. Do you think kings rose to the throne by being selfless? Do you think empires were built by men who said yes to everyone? Of number, they said no more than they said yes. They chose their mission over their emotions, and they never apologized for it. Being selfish means setting boundaries. It means putting your energy where there's return, not where there's noise. It means walking away when something disrespects your worth. That's not weakness, that's control. And control is power. When you are selfish, you reclaim your time. You stop wasting it on people who don't deserve your presence. You stop explaining yourself to those who will never understand. You stop begging for love, attention, validation. You become the source of your own light. That is the most Machiavellian thing you can do, become the sun around which others orbit. Because here's the secret they'll never tell you. The more selfish you become, the more valuable you are to others. When you no longer seek approval, people chase your presence. When you no longer crave attention, people offer theirs. When you stop giving without reason, your value multiplies. because rarity creates desire, and only the selfish understand how to be rare. People love what they can't control. So stop being easy. Stop being everywhere. Stop being everything for everyone. Be rare, be powerful, be selfish. Machiavelli warned, never trust those who preach morality, they usually seek control. The most dangerous people in your life are not the ones who openly oppose you. They're the ones who convince you that being less is noble, that shrinking is humble, that disappearing for others is strength. It's not, it's death. And slowly, quietly, they'll bury you beneath expectations until you forget you ever had your own dreams. So what do? You rise. You choose yourself ruthlessly. You protect your energy like it's the last currency on earth. You walk away when you're disrespected. You say no without guilt. You move in silence. And you never apologize for being the main character in your life. Being selfish doesn't mean hurting others. It means not letting them hurt you. It means knowing when to stop pouring into empty cups. It means building an empire inside your mind that no one can invade. And it means understanding this brutal truth: no one is coming to save you. So you must save yourself. Be selfish. Build your power. Own your choices. And remember, in a world full of pawns, only the selfish ever become kings. You owe no one your softness. You owe no one an explanation for your ambition. You owe no one comfort at the cost of your chaos. Because your chaos, the fire inside you, is what keeps you alive. And selfishness protects that fire. It doesn't make you cold. It keeps you warm when the world turns its back. When they walk away, when they lie, when they betray, it is your selfishness that reminds you, I still have me. The world teaches you to be kind, but Machiavelli teaches you to be clever. Because kindness without power is exploitation waiting to happen. If you are too soft in a hard world, you will be broken. If you give too much in a greedy world, you will be drained. If you love too deep in a shallow world, you will drown. That is why the selfish survive. That is why the selfish lead. That is why the selfish sleep peacefully, because they don't chase ghosts. They chase goals. And when they lose, they don't beg. They rebuild. You cannot be useful to the world if you're exhausted, resentful, and empty. Selfishness is how you refill. It's how you protect your value. It's how you grow stronger every time they try to weaken you. They call it arrogance, but really it's boundaries. They call it pride, but really it's self-respect. They call it ego, but really it's identity. When you forget who you are to please others, you don't get love, you get used. So protect yourself like a king guards his throne. Not because others are evil, but because people will always take more if you keep giving. Machiavelli said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." Why? Because fear keeps your position secure. Love fades. Fear endures. So be strategic. Be calm on the surface. Ruthless underneath. Smile if you must, but never lose control of the game. When you are selfish, you don't play to survive, you play to dominate. You don't beg for entry, you build your own doors. You don't follow trends, you become one. The masses wait, the selfish move. The masses obey. The selfish command. The masses ask why. The selfish ask why not. You were not born to be everyone's savior. You were born to build your world. Protect your name. Choose your peace over their problems. Choose your health over their chaos. Choose your ambition over their expectations. That is not cruelty. That is clarity. The most powerful people are not loud. They are selective. They are minimal. They speak less. They control more. They don't explain. They execute. That is the selfish path. And that is the only path to true power. The reason most people suffer is not because others are stronger, it's because they never chose themselves. They wait for permission. They wait for validation. They wait to be picked. But the selfish, they don't wait. They take. They walk into rooms like they belong there. They write their names on the walls of silence. They build reputations that don't need introductions. That's what being selfish gives you a sense of authority that no one can grant you, and no one can take away. Machiavelli understood something most never will. Power is not about being loved, it's about being necessary. It's about being the piece no one can replace. And you only become that when you stop playing small, when you stop watering down your truth to quench someone else's thirst, when you stop setting yourself on fire just to keep others warm. You are not responsible for how others feel about your boundaries. You are not responsible for fixing what others broke. You are not responsible for healing people who cut you open. The selfish don't waste time on lost causes, they invest in their own evolution. You are not cold, you are focused. You are not cruel, you are conscious. You are not heartless, you are healed. And that scares people, because the moment you stop needing them, you become dangerous. The greatest threat to any manipulator is a person who doesn't need to be liked. Because now, they can't guilt you, can't shame you, can't control you. You don't bend, you don't chase, you don't flinch. You just move, silently, powerfully, unapologetically. That's the true reward of selfishness. Independence. Emotional, financial, mental, spiritual. A fortress inside you that no one has the key to. The ones who call you selfish are usually the ones who benefited from your lack of boundaries. They don't miss you. They miss the access. They miss the convenience. They miss the power they had over a version of you that no longer exists. And that's good. Let them miss you. Let them talk. Let them twist your name, because while they're busy whispering, you're building. While they're watching, you're rising. While they're stuck, you're winning. You don't owe anyone the soft version of yourself that broke for them. You owe yourself the strong version that never breaks again. Machiavelli knew the cost of sentiment. He knew that mercy, when given too freely, leads to chaos. That forgiveness, when given too early, becomes a weapon against you. That love, without caution, is a knife in the hands of those who smile while cutting you. So be selfish with your love, with your time, with your trust. Make them earn it. Make them prove they deserve it. Because your soul is not a charity. Your presence is not a public park. And your energy is not up for grabs. There will come a day when you realize that no one is coming to save you. Not your friends, not your family, not society. They're too busy surviving themselves. The only one who can rise for you is you. And when that day comes, you'll have two choices. Shrink back into the shell they built for you, or burn that shell to the ground and become something untouchable, something unforgettable. That's what being selfish creates. A version of you that no longer asks to be seen, but is impossible to ignore. A presence that doesn't beg to be loved, but demands to be respected. You stop negotiating your worth. You stop offering discounts on your soul. You stop bleeding for people who would never cut themselves for you. You become your own goddamn sanctuary. And that's when the game changes. Because now, you don't move with emotion, you move with strategy. Now, you don't react, you calculate. You don't chase, you attract. You don't beg, you build. You are no longer playing for approval. You are playing for power, for legacy, for yourself. And the moment you fully commit to choosing yourself, without apology, without guilt, Without hesitation, that is the moment the world begins to bend. Not because it loves you, not because it understands you, but because it fears you. It fears what you'll become when you finally stop trying to be good and start trying to be great. The lion doesn't explain its roar. It just owns the jungle. The throne doesn't ask to be worshipped. It just stands. So be that. Be unshakable. Be immovable. Be dangerously selfish. Because that's not weakness. That's how you win. They won't tell you this, but the moment you stop being easy, they start respecting you. The moment you stop being available, they start valuing your time. The moment you stop needing them, they start needing you. That's the paradox of power. They don't admire you when you give them everything. They admire you when you make them earn it. When you walk like you own the ground, when your silence is louder than their noise, when your absence teaches them what your presence really meant, the selfish don't seek revenge, they evolve. They don't respond to drama, they disappear. They don't argue, they win silently. And that silence is brutal, because it reminds people you never needed them. You chose them. And now you've unchosen them. That is power. That is the final cut. That is what Machiavelli meant when he said, "Men forget more easily the death of their father than the loss of their inheritance." They'll mourn losing access to you more than they mourn losing your love. That's what selfishness protects. Your value, your essence, your identity. So never explain your glow to people who only understand shadows. Never water yourself down to fit into shallow minds. Never break yourself just to prove your love. Break the pattern. Break the leash. Break free. They called you selfish. You smiled, because now you understand. In a world that feeds on the soft, being selfish isn't just survival. It's divine rebellion. You spent years being the good one, the quiet one, the patient one. And what did you get? Betrayal, manipulation, loneliness. The truth is, they never loved the real you. They loved the version of you that was convenient. That said yes. That stayed silent. That gave too much. But now, she's gone. That version of you is dead. And from the ashes, something colder rises. Something cleaner. Something stronger. The one who doesn't text first. The one who doesn't explain. The one who leaves when disrespected without looking back. You learned that love without respect is poison. That attention without effort is manipulation. That apologies without change are just lies. And now, you're done being soft, done being easy, done being available for those who wouldn't bleed for you. You're done performing. You're done chasing. You're done justifying your heart to people who only came to take from it. Now you're building walls, not bridges. Now you're saying no without a smile. Now you're cutting off anything that costs your peace. That's not rudeness. That's rebirth. That's not revenge. That's realignment. That's not arrogance. That's arrival. You arrived at your truth, and your truth is this: I choose me. I protect me. I love me. And I will never again apologize for being the damn fire. Let them choke on the smoke. The most dangerous version of you is the one who no longer fears losing people. The one who has felt betrayal deep enough to scar, yet stood up taller. The one who has cried silently, wiped their own tears, and smiled in the face of silence. That version of you, the selfish one, is not evil. It is evolved. You didn't become selfish because you wanted to hurt people. You became selfish because you finally realized no one was protecting you but you. No one was clapping for you but you. No one was fighting for you but you. And now, you're done waiting. Done hoping, done shrinking. You are here to take up space, to demand respect, to walk in your truth. Loud, unshakable, unapologetic, and yes, selfish. Because if loving yourself in a world that profits off your insecurity is selfish, then be selfish. If protecting your peace in a world that feeds on chaos is selfish, then be selfish. If walking away from pain and choosing power is selfish, then baby, be selfish every damn day. Because they don't care about your tears, they care about your silence. They don't miss you, they misusing you. They don't respect your kindness, they exploit it. So give them nothing. Not your time, not your love, not your explanation. Give them silence. And give yourself everything. One day they will ask what happened to you, why you don't call anymore, why you don't show up, why your eyes look colder, your smile feels sharper, your silence cuts deeper. And you'll just laugh. Not because it's funny, but because you remember the exact moment you stopped being their savior. You remember how they drained you, how they took and never gave, how they only loved the version of you that made their life easier. And when you finally broke, no one showed up. No one came running. No one saved you. That's when you learned. That's when you turned. That's when you became the villain in their story, just because you finally became the hero in yours. And now, you're done explaining. You're done softening. You're done carrying dead weight. You've burned the bridge, not in anger, but in peace, because they weren't your people. They were just passengers in your storm, and they wanted your light, but not your fire. So you let them go. And in letting them go, you found yourself stronger, smarter, colder, realer. The kind of selfish that no longer apologizes for breathing louder than others are used to. The kind of selfish that doesn't whisper anymore. It roars. You don't lose people when you become selfish. You lose parasites. You lose opportunists. You lose those who only stayed because you forgot how to say no. And when they leave, don't mourn them. Don't chase. Don't explain. Just smile. Because now you see who was real and who was only there to feed on your light. You see who clapped for you and who clapped when you fell. You see who loved you and who loved your weakness. And now that you're rising, now that you've reclaimed your worth, now that you say no with a straight face and yes with conditions, they call you cold, but they don't understand what it took to survive. They don't know how it felt to pour into people who left you empty. They don't know how many nights you spent holding yourself together when no one showed up. So no, you're not cold. You're finally warm enough for yourself. You're not rude. You've just stopped playing nice with those who played you. You're not heartless. You're healed. And now that you've healed, you protect your peace like a kingdom. Not everyone gets in. Not everyone gets to stay. Not everyone deserves your softness, especially not those who mistook it for weakness. The version of you they used to manipulate is dead. The new version doesn't bend, doesn't beg, doesn't break. She doesn't explain her standards. She enforces them. She doesn't justify her distance. She maintains it. She doesn't fear being misunderstood. She embraces it. Because only the broken need everyone to like them. The healed choose who they even speak to. And that's what being selfish does. It turns you from available to selective, from predictable to mysterious, from dependent to dangerous. They wanted you soft so they could mold you. They wanted you kind so they could cut you. They wanted you quiet so you wouldn't call them out. But now you speak fire. Now you radiate power. Now you don't need closure, you just close the door. No explanation, no apology, just gone. That's what Machiavelli meant when he said power is preserved through fear more than love. because love fades. Fear respects. You are no longer the one who waits. You are the one who walks away. And when you walk, the earth shifts, because they never thought you'd rise. They never thought you'd glow. They never thought you'd choose you. But now that you have, they're terrified. Not because you hurt them, but because you healed without them. Because you turned their betrayal into blueprint, their silence into strategy, their rejection into rebirth. That's the power of being selfish. It's not cruelty. It's clarity. You stop asking what you did wrong and start asking why you stayed so long. You stop needing validation and start building your own throne. And the moment you sit on that throne, you realize you were never meant to be in their circle. You were meant to be in command. You were never meant to fit in. You were born to rule, not over others, but over yourself, your time, your energy, your emotions, your story. So now, no more softening your edge, no more shrinking to fit, no more over-explaining your soul to people who don't even deserve your presence. Be loud, be wild, be selfish, because only the selfish survive in a world that feeds on the selfless. Be cold like the truth, be sharp like the lesson, be distant like the peace they never gave you. And when they say you've changed, just smile. Because yes, you did. You stopped trying to be understood, and you started trying to be unstoppable. You don't scare them because you're loud. You scare them because you're silent now. Because you don't ask anymore. Because you don't need anymore. Because you finally understood the truth, they never deserved the softest parts of you. And now that you've taken them back, they feel empty. Not because you hurt them, but because you stopped letting them hurt you. You stopped showing up where you weren't seen. You stopped giving where nothing grew. You stopped loving people who only loved your weakness. And now, you're dangerous. Because nothing controls you anymore. Not guilt, not shame, not fear, not loneliness. You've sat with yourself in the dark long enough to know you'll never need anyone to light your way again. You've looked in the mirror and met the one person who will never betray you again, you. That's not just being selfish. That's being sovereign. That's being untouchable. That's being whole. They told you to be humble. They told you to forgive. They told you to understand. But no one told them to stop breaking you. No one held them accountable. No one said, you hurt a rare soul. So you became the villain in their eyes. But in your own story, you became the goddamn warrior. You burned the script. You stopped playing the part they wrote for you. You stopped bleeding for a story that never gave you a happy ending. And now, you're writing your own story. One where the hero isn't kind to their enemies. One where peace comes after war. One where survival is messy. One where power is lonely, but worth it. One where you are no longer soft-spoken, you're thunder. One where your no carries the weight of every time they ignored your yes. One where your silence is louder than their fake apologies. One where your exit is your revenge. You didn't become selfish overnight. You became selfish the day you realized selflessness was killing you. You became selfish when you woke up and said, no one's coming. It's on me. And since that day, you've never been the same. You walk different. You speak different. You demand different. And that makes people uncomfortable. Good. Let them squirm. Let them call you names. Let them choke on the old version of you they'll never get back. Because you're not her anymore. You're not soft. You're not waiting. You're not asking. You're not explaining. You're not here for anyone's comfort. You're here for your empire. Your rise. Your rules. Your peace. And if that makes you selfish, So be it. If that makes you heartless, fine. If that makes you the villain in their fairy tale, beautiful. You never needed their love. You just needed to love yourself harder. And now that you do, you'll never beg again. You'll never bleed again. You'll never explain again. Because the crown you wear now, you didn't steal it. You earned it. With every tear they didn't see. With every scar they gave you. With every lesson you turned into a sword. That's the real you now. The selfish one. The unstoppable one. The one they never saw coming. You've become too powerful to be understood. Too silent to be controlled. Too selfish to be used. And they hate that. Because they remember the version of you that needed them. That said yes when it should have screamed no. That showed up when no one showed up for her. But now, she's gone. Dead. Buried beneath broken trust. Lonely nights. Unanswered calls. Fake apologies. And cheap love. And in her place stands someone unrecognizable. Someone who doesn't flinch. Doesn't chase. Doesn't cry where they can't hear. Someone who learned that loyalty without boundaries is slavery. That love without power is a prison. That kindness without caution is suicide. So now you don't hand your heart out like charity. Now you guard it like a crown. Because you've bled for people who never even said thank you. You've fought for people who left you mid-battle. You've loved people who only loved your wounds. And now? Now you're done bleeding. Now you're done explaining. Now you're done hoping. You've seen how cold the world is, and instead of begging for warmth, you became the fire. You stopped needing closure. You became the ending. You stopped chasing peace. You became the storm. And now you walk like thunder in a world full of whispers. You look like danger in a room full of masks. You feel like a warning to anyone who ever dared underestimate you. And no one sees the tears behind your silence anymore because you wiped them all with your own damn hands. And when they come back, and they will come back, they'll find a door where a bridge used to be, a lock where a window used to be, a stranger where their favorite victim used to be. And that's your victory. That they can never hurt you again. That they can never access you again. That their name is no longer a wound but just a name. You are not theirs. You never were. You were just the fire they thought they could warm their hands on, not knowing they'd get burned. So, let them talk. Let them lie. Let them hate. You owe them nothing. Not a word. Not a text. Not a goodbye. You walked through hell alone and came back crowned. You earned your peace with your pain. And now that you've chosen you, you'll never be unchosen again. They don't know how much silence it took for you to become this loud. They see your distance as arrogance, your clarity as coldness, your refusal as attitude, but none of them stayed when you were soft. None of them clapped when you were drowning. So now you walk alone, not because you don't want love, but because you refuse to settle for pain dressed as love. That's not ego. That's wisdom. That's not selfishness. That's healing. The kind of healing that burns everything fake, that silences every distraction, that builds walls so tall even your past can't climb them. You stopped explaining your soul to people who only heard what served their story. You stopped proving your heart to people who only came to exploit it. And now, you don't argue. You don't chase. You don't look back. Because peace, once tasted, makes everything else feel like noise. And that's what they hate. That you found peace without their presence. That you rebuilt without their apology. That you found yourself in the ruins they left you in. Now you speak slower, but your words hit harder. You love smaller, but your soul shines louder. You give less, but what you give is sacred. And those who knew the old you, they can't access the new you. That version of you doesn't pick up every call, doesn't answer every message, doesn't smile through every disrespect. That version now protects what once bled out. And when they ask what changed, just smile, because they wouldn't understand the wars you fought in silence. They wouldn't survive what you walked through barefoot. And they'll never taste the power you bled for. So no, you're not the same. You're better, colder, wiser, more selfish. Because, finally, you've made peace with the truth. If saving yourself makes you the villain, then so be it. At least this time, the villain lives.